Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, co-creator. I can barely speak my own name. Let's see how we do on this podcast. I'm Ryan Morris, co-creator of Wake Up with Giants TV, a tribe of giants and 12 journeys coaching. Wrote a little book about kindness. It's a Journey of Riches, Living the Paradigm of Kindness. It's on Amazon. And I'm here with Mr. Nicholas T. Smith, the author of The Giants and the Smalls, and the other co-creator of Wake Up with Giants TV, a tribe of giants and 12 journeys coaching. Yes, he's amazing. He's written a bunch of other books, the Tortoise's Hair as well. You can see it behind his hair. It's behind his, there it is.
Hold on, I got a copy.
Yeah, he's going to grab it. There you go. He's done a lot of amazing things, and grateful that I ran across Nick because my life has forever been changed. There it is right there. Frankie the Tortoise. And,
Frankie the Tortoise.
Yeah, it's an amazing book. And we also do what we call Sum Gigante, our SG groups. Sum Gigante is I Am Giant in Latin. And so we fill groups and teach group training. And we are on what? SG 16, is that right?
16. Once we do a group, it'll never come back. So that number is complete. And so we're on the 16th cohort of this traiing. And the results are
old DAC6.
Old DAC6, yeah. What is that? 27, 71,
Oh, look at you go.
Yes.
Learning new things about German. Nick Smith today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't speak German. I barely speak English.
Yeah.
So I just can't believe I said 16 in Spanish, and just
that's pretty
it's
good.
In there somewhere.
It's
in
thanks.
There. Will you tell them a little bit about SG and what happens in those groups?
Yeah, I'll do that. So real quick though, go get your copy of Tortoise's Hair.
Yes.
For those that invested, we have not forgotten about you. Please be patient with us as we start fulfilling those books, but we have not forgotten about you. The SG program. So what we do in those programs is for 6 weeks, it's a live training on Zoom. And for 6 weeks, we spend time with your inner story and your narrative of who you think you are. And we help you to recognize and take ownership of really that inner story so that you can start to really step into your power. And it is a journey. I mean, it's taken you a long time to get to where you are and become who you are. And so we teach you how to navigate that, own that story, and then start to rewrite it if it serves you to rewrite it. So we spend the first 3 weeks going on the inner root journeys where we look at your narrative. We wake you up to that. We teach you tools for navigating difficult situations. We teach you grit, resilience. And then on the next few journeys, the next 6 journeys are all about growth, stepping into the unknown, embracing the abundance, surrendering, creating your vision, and ultimately creating your impact in the world. And we all have a unique way of doing that. And so, Ryan has an amazing voice. I write, Glenn is going to teach us about his writings today, but we all have a unique way of impacting the world. And our goal is to help you bring that out. So come join us. It's really a reasonable price. I keep hearing that from people. You guys are being dumb, pricing it so low. But
welcome, everyone.
You're welcome. That's what we want to do. So come join it because it's a powerful program. And we're there to serve you for those 6 weeks. So, yeah.
That's amazing.
In a nutshell.
That's it. In a nutshell. Yeah. What a great nutshell to be to have. Well, we're excited today. As always, we've scoured the globe for some of the best people on the planet, and we found one today. Like I said, it's not the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is Glenn Nicholson's Guide to Inner Peace and Resilience. And so, Nick, will you introduce our guest today?
I will. Yeah. Today, we're excited to have a guest who truly embodies the spirit of resilience, mindfulness, and empowerment. Born in sunny West Palm Beach, Florida, now calling the serene shores of Westerly, Rhode Island home, Glenn Nicholson has dedicated his life to guiding others toward inner peace and self-discovery. From his early career as an educator and coach to his current role as a transformational coach, Glenn has made it his mission to empower individuals to overcome challenges and embrace their fullest potential. His book, Mindful Illumination, is more than a guide. It's a journey into the heart of mindfulness, meditation, and mental resilience. Drawing from personal experiences and extensive research, Glenn skillfully integrates ancient wisdom with modern living. His work teaches us how to manage stress, harness Kundalini energy, and find lasting peace amid life's chaos. So, not just an author, Glenn has spent years working with adults with disabilities, teaching coping skills and empowering students through motivational speaking. His ability to inspire and connect with people from all walks of life has made a profound impact on countless individuals. And today, Glenn is here to share his insights, practical mindfulness techniques, and a powerful message of hope and resilience. So get ready to be inspired with Glenn Nicholson. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you here.
Namaste.
Namaste. Every time I hear that, I'm like, I'm going to stay right here. Yeah. Glenn, so, it's interesting. Before we even created this show, I remember sending you the invitation for the show, and you said, bro, this is too much. I'm a HSP is what you shared. And I need you to simplify this message for me because it's too much, right?
Yeah.
And I want to dive in because you're not just navigating life the way many of us navigate life. You're navigating life as an HSP, and I'd really like you to kind of take us into that a little bit to start off this show of maybe how has that influenced and who did you think you were having HSP? Maybe even when you didn't even know you had that.
Yeah. Well, what I want to share is I've been highly sensitive all my life. I also, in the same token, was able to overcome a lot of things and excel in school and athletics. But it wasn't until recently there was a show called Sensitive, and Dr. Elaine Aaron, she's the one who created the whole HSP, highly sensitive person. She wrote many books on the subject, which I read many of her books. And when I saw the documentary, I felt like my whole world just opened up. The level of awareness and understanding, like, this is me. They're having a documentary about me. And it's like, it explains so much, like, oh, no wonder I'm a dork. I get it now. I get it. But anyway, so I'm fascinated, and I do write a little bit about HSP, highly sensitive people. I find the research is amazing. And just so people realize, HSP is not a diagnosis. You're not going to go to a doctor and doctor say, hey, you have HSP. It's not going to happen. It's actually a personality trait, and it has to do with your brain. Your brain, when you're HSP, your brain takes in so much information outside. My difficulties are with noise. I just started playing pickleball, and the noise in the gym, I have to wear earplugs, and I'm grinding away every point. I'm just taking a breath and trying to get through it the best way I can. I try to explain it to people. It's a challenge. It's a real challenge, and it's real. And the other thing is light. A lot of us are sensitive to light. A lot of HSP are just sensitive where they just need their own little space for a little while. They can't really function around people. And I do feel like I saw a therapist one time. She had no clue what I was talking about. And at the end of the session, I'm like, I'm going to charge you for the session. And now you're telling me you think you're HSP. I'm just like, you talk about a poof moment, like, and one more thing. So I think it's important that our school systems, sorry about that. I think it's really important that people.
I was about to guess the song there. Like,
no. This is a jingle. It's a jingle. No, it's just important that we. Eckhart Tolle said, "Awareness is the greatest agent for change." So once we realize 1 in 5 people, 20% of the population are HSP, and the majority of us had no clue what the hell that is, and it's like you got to get with the program and start understanding the reality of the world. It's just like people with generalized anxiety disorder or anxiety or or depression and mental health issues, we got to get on board. We got to get on board. We got to do our education. We got to understand what it's all about. Either you're suffering individually or you have friends and family that are suffering, and we know coping skills to help them. And that's why I wrote Mindful Illumination.
Yeah, we're going to get into those tools because this is a lot of the root journey work that we do is around waking up and how to wake up, and then also how to navigate the emotions. Because what's funny is I've been doing this work for, man, it's been 15 plus years that I've been doing my own work, and our 12 journeys framework started evolving about 5 years ago, and it's really fine tuning. And I find myself going, shit, I don't know anything, and it's like, I find myself slipping back into how do I navigate my emotions and how do I be gentle with myself, knowing what I know, because the more you know, the more we tend to beat ourselves up over what we know or what we think we know. Right. And so, there's a gentle art to waking up. And it's kind of been a theme through some of the last episodes here of, how challenging waking up can be.
Right.
And I'd love for you to speak to that a little bit. Tell us about waking up.
Listen, when I was writing Mindful Illumination, I mean, we're talking about kind of the same thing. A mindful illumination is this like aha moment, like, holy crap, awareness. You see differently. You might all of a sudden see life through a spiritual lens. You might think of yourself as a miracle all of a sudden. You might realize, like Eckhart Tolle says, you do not have a life. You are life. Mm-hmm. So once you start creating a different space, a different way of viewing the world, it's a game changer. And it can just change your life so dramatically. And we are faced right now, Dr. Gabor Mate, he's a physician in Canada. He's a therapist. He's world-renowned, books, presentations. Dr. Gabor Mate basically is letting us fully aware that we right now as a human race we're in an epidemic or crisis when it comes to mental health. And it's kind of a wake-up call. So the question for me is, I've dealt with depression twice in my life, probably within a 10-year about a 10-year span where I had two major depressions where I had to be hospitalized. And just a statistic, the National Institute of Mental Health in 2021, there were 21 million people diagnosed with depression. And that number only represents the number of people who went to get treatment. That is not talking about all the rest of the population that is dealing on their own accord or not dealing at all.
I want to put that in scale. Okay. Like in Utah, I live in Utah, and there's maybe 3-4 million people in Utah. That would be 5 states the size of Utah. And every person in all 5 of those states would be mentally ill. I mean, just to give you a sense of how many people that is a lot of people in the world.
It's scary. It's very scary. Yeah. So the question is, going back when I wrote Mindful Illumination, I had to start at ground zero. Matter of fact, not only was I at ground zero, I was 6 feet under ground zero. I did not have to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to crawl. That's how bad it was. And once I learned how to crawl, then after a while, I'm like, okay, I have these coping skills. I think I can walk again. So let's do that. So the question is, Glenn, if you suffered 2 major depressions, hospitalized twice, then thereafter suffered with generalized anxiety disorder where you have paralyzing anxiety, how the hell did you get on this other end of the spectrum? And I tell you, read the book, read Mindful Illumination. It's there. It's a great way to get yourself above water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if we look at that, the awakening, one of the things that we teach is that when you awaken, one of the things we do is we get very judgmental of ourselves. And I do this. This is a practice for me, is to not do that. But I get very judgmental of myself over, and here I am teaching the course. I still do it.
Absolutely.
Telling on myself, guys, is that when you get into that space and you wake up to that. So our habit is to judge ourselves over our awakening. And then when you wake up to it, the practice is, so we have the habit of one thing and the practice of another thing that eventually will become the habit of the new thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the practice is to not judge yourself, to step back. And sometimes we can do that on our own. Sometimes we need help doing that. I love AI. I use AI tools to create that for people, so that helps wake you up, because I need that for me.
Right.
And so you wake up to it and you learn to practice just being really gentle with yourself versus judging yourself. Because when we get into judgment or justification about our awakening, well, it spins us right into not awakening.
Right.
Because
absolutely.
Now we don't have to learn anything because of that judgment, right?
You know what really kicks my butt hard, and I tell people, like, I'm single, I'm going solo. I work really hard to get where I am now. And so if I go on a date or whatever, I let them know, I need my space. I'm not codependent. I'm a giver. I used to be a massage therapist, so I got the healing hand thing going on. So if I'm not healing people's bodies, I feel a little like you're wasting potential here, Glenn.
Yeah.
But it just, my personal thing that I have trouble with, I tell people, do not judge me. Do not judge me, because I want to be what I can for you and serve you. But if you're going to come to me with these judgments and labels, I have a real hard time with labels. It's like, Nick, if you said, Glenn, I had depression, and I'm like, oh, dude, I had it twice. I know exactly what you went through. Like I know, seriously, your depression could be totally different. Your experience totally different. I'm not a guru on depression, even though I've been through it. But anyway, the whole thing about judgment, it's difficult. Me personally, I try to keep my ego, just like when I go to the gym, I leave my ego at the door. It's not about lifting a ton of weight anymore. I'm too old for that. And so you check yourself. And you got to be your own best friend. When you learn to become your own best friend, and it might be your belief system in God or Mother Nature or whatever that is to you. When you have that presence within inside you, you're able to lead a beautiful life, one day at a time, one moment at a time. That's all you have, is one moment at a time.
Yeah. Man. And the judgments we have of others are often the judgments of ourselves, that we project on others. And then we don't have to look at ourselves, inside of that judgment. I get to easily just put it over there,
Yeah. The judgment too, real quick. That's just like being a bully. It's like being a bully. When you start throwing judgments around, you're just bullying yourself. You're no good. You suck. You're not good looking. You never meet a partner in life. All these things, and I talk about it in Mindful Illumination in the book. I'd like to share with you just for a moment. When I was depressed for a second time and hospitalized, I came to the realization, Glenn, what you are doing is not working. So I knew I had to change something in here. The algorithm that was grinding wasn't working. So I'm like, okay, I got to change this algorithm. So what I did a lot of research for Mindful Illumination. One thing I found, some people are like, listen, I want to be a positive thinker. And you might say, okay, I got a book called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. Read that and miracles are going to happen. But you know what's going to happen? It might work for a day or two, but the reality is research has shown the only real way you're going to become a positive thinker is you got to work on those negative limiting beliefs that are in your head first before you have a clean slate, and then your brain is available for the positive thoughts and behaviors and so forth.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's the idea of you until you get into the shadows. It's Carl Jung's work, and what's funny is, in theory, it's so easy to be like, oh yeah, Carl Jung says this, or this book says that, and then you put it into practice, and you're like, oh shit, I don't know any of that, right? So like the idea of Carl Jung saying that until you make the unconscious conscious, it'll rule your life.
Correct.
And you'll call it fate, right?
Correct.
And when you put it in this context, that non-conscious part or that unconscious part, often the shadow, the judge, is the part where our greatest teachings are going to come from.
Right.
And that's where we really have a chance to grow. It's and believe me, I have a lot of judgments. The people that say, "Oh, I don't judge," are the judgiest people.
Yeah. Right. Right. And the worst thing, I've been through 2 marriages and I've gone to court in front of the judge. It is not pretty, man. Not pretty. I don't like being judged even by a judge. And the other thing I want to share is here's the reality. Here's some more numbers. I used to be a math teacher, so I love numbers. We think about 60,000 thoughts a day. That should give you a headache. Who wants to think 60,000 thoughts on average a day? 80% of those thoughts are negative in nature. 80%. So you got a battle going on. So here's 2 thoughts. Number 1, in cognitive behavioral therapy, they teach you a technique called reframing. I do reframing every day. When I go talk to the kids, I volunteer and do my Tony Robbins with the kids. And I tell them, I say, listen, I do reframing probably every hour of the hour. I'll have a thought like whatever, something negative, like it's almost like full catastrophe thinking. I see a little oil coming, had dripped on the ground from my car. And then I see I'm going, oh my God, my car's leaking oil. What if there's no oil in the engine? What if I blow my engine? I don't have money. And
there's like one drop on the, on the driveway.
Yeah. And then I gotta
worst case scenario.
Time out, Glenn. Time out, bro. You just had an oil change 2 days ago. Come on, think about it.
You might have just spilled just a little.
Turns out Nick is an HSP after this episode. I'm like, oh shit.
Right.
But the bottom line is, if you got to practice some of these techniques that are available to you. Reframing has been just a blessing to me. And the other thing, there's a wonderful movie called Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. And Socrates told Dan would be like, and Socrates would say, Dan, take out the trash. Take out the trash. That means what's going on here. There's so much trash. Filter it. Let it go. Reframe.
Let's talk about some of these tools. As we look at this, there's the awakening. There's the tool of navigating the emotions. There's the tool of acceptance. There's a tool of gratitude. These are all tools. When we do the 12 journeys, those are some of the journeys we go through. And even though they're journeys in and of themselves, they're also tools, right? So when we look at the tools here, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral theory, ACT, ART, there's so many tools that are out there that are designed to help us not only regulate the system, but to start rewriting the narrative. I look at internal family systems. I look at narrative therapy. I look at Joseph Campbell's work in The Hero's Journey. And this is where I think I want to hang a little bit is, not only are you navigating tools, you're doing that going back to the idea of an HSP, right? That if a person is navigating life, which is already challenging, but they're navigating life with a mental illness or a personality disorder, and they're trying to do all these things, you're compounding the difficulty of that challenge, right? So I was diagnosed in 2017 with generalized anxiety disorder. Now I could use that as a death sentence to me, right? I could say, well, I have I have GAD. I have an excuse here.
That's right. That's right.
And I tried medications. I tried all the things, and it wasn't solving it. I had to learn tools to navigate life. And it doesn't mean that went away. It doesn't mean that I don't have anxiety, because I have anxiety just about every damn day. Right. But what I have to do is take that anxiety and I get to redirect. I'm constantly rewriting and redirecting.
Right. Absolutely.
Let's talk about some of your favorite tools for
Okay.
you. Okay.
Okay. So I did address the reframing. I think it's such a game changer. A drip of oil. Are you really going to have a panic attack over one little drip of oil that landed on the pavement? Seriously. I did it for a while. For years I would do it, and the insane thing was
I did that last night. I like there was this couple, just real quick. There's this couple that walked into this restaurant. I'm sitting there. We saved a seat at a table. They walk in, they sit down at another table. We get up to greet our friends, and they took our table from behind us. I was like, turned around. I was like, the fuck? I was like, who are these freaking lowlifes? I'm like, I hate bullies. I went into this big rant of like, this guy's got to be the worst human being on the planet. He's the guy that's still in your parking place when you're letting the other guy out. I bet he's a jerk. I bet his kids and his wife hate him. Like I went into it. Like I created this huge story for this guy, and my wife's like, let's just take their table. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess there's another table now available. And I don't know why one was better than the other, or why they felt like they wanted to sit in our spot versus the other table. I'm like, and then she's like, he's probably a nice guy. He might have thought you were leaving or something like that, And I'm like, yeah, you're right.
He was probably thinking, what would Ryan do right now?
I had to, I had to go back in and totally reframe everything and be like, I just made this guy the worst person on the planet.
Right.
He's probably a good dude.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm telling you, every day I reframe. Our brains, unfortunately, they're not favorable when it comes to mental health. We have so many challenges, and the only way you're going to move and lean in is you have these coping skills that Nicholas is trying to impress on. There's a lot of coping skills that I mentioned in the book. Some I find are more useful than myself, but there's others out there. So the thing is, I love the word. The title of my book is Mindful Illumination. The subtitle is called Exploring Stillness, Mindfulness, and Kundalini Awakening. So the word I love there is exploring. So I'm like, here's a whole bunch of stuff. Here's some things I use. Here's some other things. Explore. See what works for you, man. I don't know what's going to work for you. Explore it. Have fun with the journey. Figure it out.
Well, mathematics, you talk about titration, right? We talked about titration briefly in another episode. And titration is introducing in small degrees, because in chemistry, if you put in all the chemicals at once, you're going to blow up the building.
That's right.
And so in titration, it's when you're exploring, you might try something in a small degree, and a small degree is often enough.
That's right.
If you want to talk about the power of small degrees, let's look at fentanyl, right? That's something that even a touch could kill you.
Exactly.
Right? So you don't think that something so insignificant could impact your life, but it could. and even being able to do one of these tools in a small degree isn't often enough to shift your direction.
Absolutely.
And I like the idea of exploration too, because if you look at practice or exploration is let's play with it. Let's explore. Right. Whereas practice is let's repeatedly explore this thing over and over again till that becomes habituated, right?
And that's fun. It's fun to explore. You know what I mean? It's you're on your hero's journey. You figured out one of my favorite, very simple quotes from Diana Nyad, who swam from Cuba to Florida. She's 63 years old, out there with the sharks and the man of wars, swimming her butt off. And her revelation at the end, she said, "Find your shore." Find your shore. So that's what it's all about. And my philosophy is, listen, I tell the kids when I go talk to them, I say, listen, you have to have resilience in this world today. If you don't have resilience, you're not going to make it. That's something that comes with hard knocks and difficulties. I remember also Scott Peck in his book, The Road Less Traveled, back in the 70s, psychiatrist. He said, life is difficult. So that was his first 3 words in that book was life is difficult. Once you come to realization when you're going through difficult times and you have a timeout and say, dude, life is difficult. This is the way it is. This is the way it is. This is reality. Life is difficult. It's not meant to be easy. If it was easy, we wouldn't appreciate it so much. We wouldn't have so much gratitude if it was easy all the time.
I could tell you if life was easy, none of this would have happened if life was easy.
Exactly.
None of it.
Exactly.
None of it. And it's because life was hard that I even sought a solution to life being hard. And it doesn't mean life got easy because I sought a solution. It's no, I just learned tools along the way to help me navigate my resilience, to navigate the grit, the persistence that life requires, I look at anybody that's accomplished anything, they started where they were and they had to build something, and they all built something,
right?
But they had to navigate that building of something. Right. And the biggest thing they had to navigate was themselves as they built that something. Like they had to navigate this. And that's just an expression of this, right?
I think guys, inside working with adults with disabilities, you talk about resilience. I can't even imagine what it's like to be an adult with a disability, especially if it's a critical disability with serious physical, mental limitations. These guys empower me. They give me such a sense of gratitude. It's like, if they can do this, how the hell can I not do that? I mean, come on, seriously. I think we're all internally geniuses. We all are. I don't care. We all have that potential of being genius. And I think, I'll finish with this. I think we're all Michelangelos. And I think our Michelangelo in ourselves is about creating us, the so-called best version of yourself, which it is what it is. I don't like that line, but it applies here. You're chipping away a beautiful sculpture called me, myself, my being, who I am, my legacy.
Yeah. That right there, let's play with that idea for a minute. The idea of creating your best self is really, it's easy in my world, I'll speak from my world, to get caught up in the external measurements, which is, if we look at Lisa Feldman Barrett's work around anxiety, she says that, anxiety often occurs because we're measuring ourselves against the ideals we think others have for us. And, in our work, we talk about Brad Blanton's work where he says the ideals that we often think others have are our own ideals projected on others. So in essence, we're judging ourselves over what we think others are thinking. And then we find ourselves wanting in relation to that measurement and not being good enough and constantly chasing some ideal, right? Which is where we feel depression, which is where we feel anxiety and suffering is all in the measurement of the gap between where we are and where we think we're supposed to be.
Right.
And we're never good enough, And so when we get into that measurement is where the suffering occurs. And my greatest measurement comes in what I think others want for me.
Right.
But it's not necessarily them doing that to me. It's me creating this idea and then measuring myself. Right?
Absolutely. I think if you gotta, I think, that whole notion less is more. Mm-hmm. I think there's so much power into that. Especially there's so much anxiety in the world. I have a little knick-knack over there where it says worry less, love more. Worry less, love more. And I think if you are able to love yourself, learn how to learn yourself best, then you can really authentically love outwardly and serve people best.
Dude, I'm having a thought around this until you tie into it. But the places that I feel the most insecurity are the places where I feel the least. So when somebody else brings that up, or I bring that up in relation to somebody else, I judge myself harder over those things that I feel most insecure about, because I've already decided I'm not in some form. That's not me. I've been striving to be that. And so when it comes up, it's more impactful than, if they said something to me that I've already healed, it's like, I don't feel that. I don't feel anything around that. But if I'm judging myself over something and somebody says something, then I flood myself with all of these judgments about that thing. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then that worry comes up. Go ahead.
Right. Another powerful thing that I have learned is that, the whole notion, happiness is a choice. Happiness is a choice, ultimately. And it's an inside job. And the other thing that comes to mind, this up here, this 5 to 10 pound dome that we have up here, it can either be your master or your slave. And it is your choice. Ultimately, it's your choice. You have an opportunity to reprogram it. If it ain't working for you, there's ways. Again, in Mindful Illumination, is spelled out, and they're not rocket science. They're not rocket science. It's
mine's having an uprising right now. So
how is that?
Mine's having an uprising.
Boom!
An overthrow. Yeah. Yeah. So going back to it, somebody that's going through life, you talk about people with mental illness or disability, and they're navigating life and they're figuring it out. And in their own way, they're creating their version of that Michelangelo moment, where working with those disabilities, they're working alongside it to create themselves the best way they can. Right. There was a quote I heard the other day, is that you can't do everything. You can't do everything. You can only exploit everything within the context of the unique gifts that you have.
Yes.
I'd love to hear your thoughts around that.
Okay. I'm glad you asked me, because this is hugely important right now.
Yep.
You cannot do everything yourself. You can't. It's impossible. Even coaches.
A lot of people try.
Coaches have coaches. And because we can't do it all. We're having such challenges keeping up on a daily, hourly. Hey, did you hear the latest AI tool? I mastered it a month ago. What's new? Oh, what you did a month ago is obsolete. Get rid of that. Get the update. So we need to keep updating ourselves. And once you have these tools that are they're a lifetime, they will work, they're functional for a lifetime. There is no update. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it so simple. That's what I'm constantly doing in my life. It's like, so I want to go back to what you were saying, Nicholas.
Yeah.
I could never be where I am now without the support of my close circle, my sister, who is an angel on earth. I think sometimes we're waiting to be rescued. And in depression, I found myself on what I call the island of isolation. And I became isolated, very isolated. I put myself in that position. With isolation comes more of a downward rabbit hole where you get deeper and deeper and I tell the kids, I'm like, listen, if you get on this island of isolation, the probability of you getting off isn't very good. It's not very good. So you need to recognize the signs before you get that low. And you need to ask for help. I tell the kids, talk to a teacher, talk to your parents, a friend. I tell them about the 988 number or 911. If you're having suicidal ideation, you're thinking about planning your death, you need some serious intervention, some serious help. So going back, it's really about having the people around you who love you, who care about you, be able to support you to get you back on your feet again. And sometimes that's a doctor. You see a psychiatrist or a therapist or whatever. Sometimes there's medication that will be involved. Maybe, you need some medication. I feel like doing breath work and meditation are huge right now. You got to find, like Diane and I said, going back, find your shore. Find a shore. Find a way.
Yeah.
If you can't find a way, create one. A good friend of mine, Jules Wyatt, who's a coach out in Arizona, he said that. He said, if you can't find a way, create a way.
Mm. Yeah, I look at the tools as essential for building yourself back up, to getting back empowered enough to move forward. One of the principles that I teach about is the satisficing by Nobel Prize winner Herbert Simon. And he says, it satisfies the need and is sufficient for the tasks. So it's essentially good enough. He says that good enough will outperform perfection every time. And these tools, they're not meant to get you perfect. There's no tool that will get you perfect, but they will get you good enough. And when you're good enough, that's good enough to step. And that's where I find, there are times where I spiral, even now I still spiral. I get into my stuff. The beauty of it now is where it used to take me a decade, it takes me a day, where it used to take a couple years, it's a couple minutes. And so, yeah, I spiral. People spiral, but it's what you do in the spiral.
Yeah.
And if there's cleaning up to do, you clean up. That's one thing I've learned is you can clean up your mess.
You know what I like to call that, Nicholas, is that freaking rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You start falling in that rabbit hole. Why don't you call your health insurance company and try to figure out this problem with them? You're like, oh God, I don't want to make this phone call. I know I'll be here for an hour and I'm going to come out more confused, more like, I don't know if my bill is paid. I don't know if they're going to take my house. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And you get in the phone tree. Okay, that's very, very
internal
real.
rabbit hole is an insurance company.
The rabbit holes, the rabbit holes of life is just that produces anxiety. And I'm like you, Nicholas. Listen, this isn't foolproof. You read Mindful Illumination, you practice it all. And the bottom line is anxiety, stress. It's out there. You can't escape it. The bottom line is, how do you cope? How do you cope?
Well, and to get beyond just tolerating life, right? Because we learn how to tolerate it. We learn how to cope. The story of the farmer and the dog, where the farmer's buddy comes up and the dog's sitting there whimpering. He's like, "What's going on with your dog?" And the farmer says, "Well, he's laying on a nail." And he says, "Well, why doesn't he move?" And he goes, "He will when it hurts bad enough." And many of us get in that space of, we learn to tolerate our lives. We learn to sit on that nail because we're comfortable in our discomfort. But it's also the solution. Barry McDonough, one of my favorite authors on anxiety, he says that the solution, we are the hindrance and we are the solution. When you learn to get comfortable in your anxious discomfort, then you start to dissolve that discomfort just by the nature of being with it.
That's
and it dissolves on its own, right?
Yeah, they say you got to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's challenging. It's like, because once I start to feel uncomfortable, I'm like, dude, what's going on here? What is this? And then I have to say, okay, dude, it's okay. It's okay to be uncomfortable, man. Don't add fuel to the fire.
Right. Yeah. The self-judgment just heaps judgment on judgment and keeps us stuck. Our definition that we use for forgiveness is to not cause additional harm. And truthfully, that's it. The moment you just pause, and you don't have to heap additional judgment on judgment, just pause right there, right? Don't cause additional harm with it. You've already done enough. Just stop right there. And
our capacity to beat the living shit out of ourselves is amazing.
There seems to be no limit, right?
Really good at it. Huh?
No.
That's what's happening internally, huh? Like,
Chris Farley, right? Chris Farley.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We go Chris Farley on that. Yeah. The solution then isn't perfection. The solution isn't getting to a perfect state. There is no, even that word perfection means to perform and to complete. So if you're doing it and you're finishing it and you're coming through the other side of it, you're doing it perfectly. I think in Christian terms, when Jesus is on the cross, he's like, it's complete. You finished it. That was perfection. right? So when we look at ourselves, we think, oh, I have to be flawless. And there is no flawlessness in this world. In fact, the Japanese art of kintsugi, I think is what it is, where they put gold in the cracks and they highlight the cracks, right? And that's what we're doing here is, some people are the cracks. They're just like, I'm flawed and I don't give an F, you can
Right.
deal with it. Right. But that's different. We're talking about the healing of those cracks and recognizing the work that went into putting that back together. That's what we're talking about. It's not about an entitlement to act like an a-hole because, you don't have to solve anything because I'm broken, right? Well, I have an excuse.
Right.
Well, I'm talking about the people that are doing the work imperfectly, right?
Right.
So
yeah, I like the expression too. Again, I'm a big Eckhart Tolle fan. I write about Eckhart Tolle in the book with permission. His whole notion about stillness. But I love the quote, and I think he got it from someone else too. You know how we get things and we don't know who the originator was.
Yeah.
But when he said, "This too shall pass," I think if you're allowed, when you're feeling that anxiety, just to be okay with it, I recognize it, and just tell yourself, "Hey, man, this too shall pass." And with anxiety, sometimes there's like a 20-minute window. It could come and go, kind of fleeting, or it could kind of linger. But I think around 20 minutes is kind of the go-to for a lot of anxiety. And just know, you can get through this. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, and having room for the emotions to come up.
Yeah.
It's okay that the emotions are there. It's okay that you're not okay. It's okay that you're having the thoughts that you're having. It's okay, all this stuff. It's sometimes we feel like I can't have this because I'm supposed to be the strong one here. I'm supposed to be the one that knows things.
Right.
And then that becomes judgment. That becomes a heaping of judgment.
Absolutely. The other thing I'd like to share is, and we were talking about support. It's so important that you have support. I have a best friend. His name is Glenn. We've been best friends since middle school. We used to live on the same street. I just saw Glenn yesterday. We went out to a show, a little concert in town. To have really good friendships, you don't need a lot of them. You could just have one really great friend. That support is freaking priceless. When you know, hey man, I don't have to carry the full load. I can have someone else help me along the way. There's nothing. It's priceless. It's priceless.
Good friends are like grandparents. They load you up on caffeine and sugar and send you home. They don't have to raise you.
The best of friends.
Thanks, Grandma.
But truthfully, a good friend doesn't see everything, and sometimes I think our partners see everything, and it's a little harder to open up because they do see everything. But you have a good friend or a close friend, and sometimes we open up in ways with our good friends that we don't with our own partners. And I think that's where, that is probably, I don't know if that's the practice, is being able to get that kind of friendship in a partnership or create that in a partnership.
Yeah.
It's and it's not a requirement. It's just simply how is that we have close friends that we can go to with just about anything, and they don't attach to our stuff, but we take that same stuff to our partners, and we're like, that's impacting me. It's like, you know what I mean?
I would love to have Bill Burr as one of my good friends. I would love to hang with that guy for a couple hours a day.
Yeah.
Got a list.
Well, and I think, it's, but it's interesting is that, a lot of our growth happens in just really waking up to our ownership of our experience and having people around us that can hold space for that,
right?
In any degree is essential because it creates a safety, a net,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And you can only fall so far in the presence of those people.
Right. The other thing, Nicholas, I wanted to share is, when I talk to the kids, there's a thing called the being movement out in the West Coast, Arizona area. And there's a lot of amazing
I've heard
coaches
of it.
out there. A
I've
lot of
heard of it.
amazing coaches. The ultimate coach, they call it the ultimate coach. Coming January, I'm going out, flying to the West Coast, and
Who
going
is
to
that
what's
guy?
called the
Let's see.
it's called
Oh,
the
it's Steve Hardison.
oh my God. Hey Steve,
There-
he's actually in here. He's in here.
oh, see.
Yeah.
Well,
So
Steve
anyway,
Hardison is right in here too. He's inside this book
yeah,
as well.
he's the
He is
man.
the giant in the book.
He is the man. He is the man. We all wish we could be Steve Hardison for a day. We all wish that. That is the
I think he
Michelangelo.
wishes he could be that guy too. He's like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about, but I think
Anyway,
that's the beauty of it. But keep
when
going.
I go out in January, I'll see Steve and connect with a lot of coaches, and I think it's a 3-day event. It'll be mind blowing. I'll probably fly home with my own wings. I won't even take the jet.
Yeah.
We tried to fly home from
yeah.
the Birmingham event in the UK and got stuck in Ireland for a bit.
Oh God.
It's amazing what some bad McDonald's will do to somebody
Yeah,
on a plane.
yeah.
You know?
If only we could have had our own wings at that point.
Yeah.
It's a great event, though. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know where we were going on that, but
well, Steve has a way to, once you talk about Steve, everything goes out the window instantly.
Yeah.
It's a new slate. It's a new slate.
Well, but the book, The Ultimate Coach, or the Being Movement, or The Giants and the Smalls, or any of these, they're really looking at waking you up to your way of being. Right. Because it's and such a cliche thing now, just because we're in that community. Oh, are you being something? And now it becomes the doing of being.
Right.
And it's like the reality is that we all have a version of ourselves that is a combination of everything we were ever taught in our childhood during development, everything we've ever experienced, everything we continue to experience that reinforces or rewrites that. And then the repetitions of all of that become our character that projects out into the world and creates our world the way we're perceiving it from the inside out. And so that being is essentially that character that we've created that is out here projecting into the unknown and creating our world around us. And that's where we're suffering, because we think our being isn't measuring up to some being we think we should be.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah. And we're our own worst critic. And now I realize what I was trying to say earlier. So when I talk to the kids, I say, listen, who are you? This is what Steve said. Steve said, being is everything. I mean, it's a very simple principle, but man, is that a powerful statement? Being is everything. And I tell the kids, I say, listen, the most powerful state of being is love. And back in the day, I was trained with the Dr. Leo Biscaglia, and he wrote a book called Love, and he had a class called Love, and it was powerful. That was my first book that got me into the whole personal growth, almost kind of leaning into spirituality, seeing the world differently, kind of starting to understand why I'm here. So, sadly, I think you feel this and see this. Our younger generation with technology, I mean, we can blame technology, whatever. The teen suicide rate is really high. It's like at an all-time high right now. The question is, what the hell are we doing? Why are kids so disconnected? Why are they feel they need to be in a position to, they've only lived a very short period of life. And, and they're already ready to call it a day. It's like, what are you thinking? And the question is, we're the adults. How are we helping them? So my first book was called Best Foot Forward, which is to help kids learn how to learn more effectively, but it also provides some coping skills for anxiety and so forth. So sadly, as I said before, Dr. Gabor Mate said, we're in an epidemic, a crisis right now when it comes to mental health. my personal mission with Mindful Illumination, I want to help get rid of that freaking stigma. I even said, listen, I had my big time challenges and difficulties with it. If they saw me on the street and go, oh, there's the madman in town. It's like, yep. Have you ever looked in the mirror?
Yeah, man. Ryan, what are you thinking as you hear this, man?
Well, I think all of this boils down to time and experience and tools in creating your best self, in creating your David, your sculpture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to look different for everybody because everybody's experiences are different. Everybody's life, the things that happen to each one of you is going to be different. So listening to Glenn and finding tools that as something comes up, you can reach back into your back pocket and go, hey, I've got something for that. And okay, that one's not working. I need something
Right.
different. Reach back in. I think it's garnering experience and tools as you navigate life.
Right.
We're not meant to do it on our own. We're here together, learning and growing. For some people, that's a little bit harder to learn too, because they've done it
Right.
on their own. They've been the only one that they could count on, and they're their worst critic. So overcoming some of those things is it could be difficult, but it's a practice.
Right.
It takes some time and some energy and some focused dedication. And as you do it, you'll spiral up and you'll start seeing new places that you can grow, new weaknesses or areas of that hey, maybe I don't want that result and continuing getting that result. So now I can shift. I can adjust. I'm more capable and more equipped than I've ever been. Boom, move
Right.
through.
Right. And the other thing too is, Michelangelo, he had to start somewhere. He wasn't like this unbelievable artist one day later. It took him a lot of practice. And the beauty is, I find I have beautiful, wonderful influencers in my life, which I recognize, like the Wayne Dyers and the Marianne Williamsons and all these wonderful souls that inspire me. And I'm very humbled. I have met with the Wayne Dyer, I have met the Marianne Williamson and so forth. And I'm about to go embark and meet some really cool coaches. That's what lights my fire. If I could serve people just a fraction of what some of these people are doing, if I could make a difference in one adult with a disability. I work with a client right now who has autism. I don't even work. We're on vacation. We're having a good time. And, the bottom line is, if just do what you can, try to help other people. And the other thing that came to mind earlier is I remember Don Miguel Ruiz and his 4 agreements. This one's so important. He says, don't take anything personally. We take so much personally. If someone called me a jerk, say, Glenn, you're a jerk. I'd be like, okay, that probably has nothing to do with me. It's coming from you. You're coming from a position. I don't know why you're making that judgment, but I'm not going to sit here going, oh my God, he called me a jerk. My day's over. My week's over. I'm just going to go to bed now and try to sleep it off.
Yeah. Yeah. If we look at the theme here, is that, all of us are facing challenges in life, and we all have, the ability to do something impactful with our lives, every one of us in our unique way. And many of us are trying to do that, but we're also trying to face this creation that we have going on in here, whatever that looks like. Some of us with mental challenges and others without, not to the degree anyway. I'm with you. I think more people are mentally ill than they think, but they're just undiagnosed. And so they could go around being the sane ones, right?
Exactly. And they're trying to hide it. Can you imagine trying to hide it all the time?
Man,
how much that takes a lot of work. And then you can't be authentic. You know what I mean? When I was in high school, I remember one of my friends, she said, Glenn, you are weird. And back in that time, I'd be like, oh man, I'm weird. You know, that's not cool. Call me weird now. I'm so unconventional. I am weird. And I take that as a compliment. It's like, thank you for recognizing I'm weird, because that's important to me.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Actually, you know, Glenn, it's a blessing coming in here and talking with you. You know, it's a wake up to my own judgments. It's a wake up to my own versions of me. It's you know, I have areas where I don't feel enough, you know, and it's like, okay, like, where am I not accepting? And I don't have to beat myself up over that. It's just simply a recognition. I'm not the only one, for one. And it's not over just because I'm having some self-judgments here. You know, it's simply, okay, now what? What are we going to do? What tools can I lean on? You know, and so it's up to me to get back on the horse, so to speak. It's up to me to get back in the ring.
Right.
And so,
yeah. And, you know, I love the fact I got to meet Wayne Dyer back in 97. And in Mindful Illumination, I have, right at the beginning, I have a tribute to Wayne, dedication, because I felt many of his quotes are in the book. And someone, it kills me when people say I'm a spiritual person. And I'm like, oh, you must know of Wayne Dyer. And they're like, Wayne Dyer? It's like, how do you not know Wayne Dyer? He's written like 40 damn books. He's been on PBS. He's like the godfather of whatever label. He used to be motivation. He didn't like that title with motivation. He's not. He's kind of just a really good spiritual soul. Yeah. But anyway, the thing is, the bottom line at the end of the day is we are all, regardless what gender, what nationality, what religion, we are all works in progress. We all are. And the only thing you can really aspire to be is the best version of you. And here, I'm going to tell everyone right now, I know mathematically, I don't know you individually. I can guarantee you are a miracle. And you know why? You know why I know you're a miracle? The reason why I know as a math teacher is that on average, there have been about 100 billion people on this planet. 100 billion. And you know what? You are unique to all of them, which makes you a freaking miracle. So live up to it. Live up to it.
That's beautiful. Any final thoughts as we wrap up here? That went way fast. That time. That just blows my mind.
Oh, you mean we didn't just start? That was
I know.
We probably did just start.
But the wake up inside of this message is huge. But I would ask you, you know, Glenn, as you think of the person on the other side of the screen, there's real people watching this. As you speak to them, you know, that was one message right there, is the miracle that you are. But as a final message to the person on the other side of the screen, what do you want them to know?
You know, Steve Hardison, it's in the Leah Biscalias and the Wayne Dyers and all these beautiful souls. It's all about love. It's the bottom line. It's all about love. And once you learn how to truly love yourself and pat yourself on the back, give yourself a hug, then you're able to do it with other people, which is really cool. And I remember Wayne Dyer, when he wakes up in the morning with gratitude, thank you, thank you, thank you. He's just grateful for another day. And then his first question is, how can I serve? If you can follow that model, it's a game changer. It's a game changer.
I like that. Ryan, what about you? Final thoughts here?
I think that I'm sitting here in gratitude for Glenn the weirdo, Glenn the math speaker.
I love it, man.
Glenn the author, Glenn the speaker, right? Because all the versions of you that have created who you are today are just a beautiful sculpture. The things that you are doing to help other people on their journey, that's what it's all about. Is as we're going to discover new things about ourselves as we travel forward. I'm imagining in 10 years the Glenn that's 10 years from now will have learned some things and elevated and shifted and helped a few more people along their journey. And so I'm grateful for every version of you that has come in. And for both of you, yeah, that you guys are modeling this for other people. You didn't know it, but you're also a model. Both of you beautiful souls are models as well. Nick's girlfriend is a real life model, and but
Yeah,
you
Glenn,
beautiful
Glenn,
souls are
did you
also,
jump in on that too? You're like,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're like,
Yeah.
all right, now you're a tiger. Is that
yeah,
the normal saying when you're at? Yeah,
I
right.
want to make it. I need to make a point. You guys are giants. I am physically a giant. I'm 6'6". I'm about 260 right now. You don't want to mess with me. You don't want to
no,
mess with me.
yeah, no. You want to be on Glenn's side. Yeah,
Yeah.
when the crap hits the fan, you want to be on
That's
his
funny.
team. So
Listen here, brother.
that's right. We're grateful for you, and thank you so much for your time and for your wisdom. And continue to do that. Share it, because you're making an impact. It's a very
Thank you.
giant impact. We love you. Thank you.
I'm humbled. I'm humbled, and I love you too. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you. For
Thank you.
everybody that's watching, this is one of many 300 plus episodes that we've done so far on the podcast alone, of messages like this, and they hit me. I'm sitting here going through these, and every week I'm getting new learnings, and my mind keeps getting blown by people that are living life in their unique way with their unique philosophies, like you, Glenn. And we've got over 300 of these unique episodes where everybody has a slight variation of this, and you start to see these themes. And, we tried to design our 12 journeys around the consistencies that we've seen, not only here, but in the books, in the trainings, in the programs, in psychology and research. There are these consistencies in humanness of, we all have a story. We all have an opportunity to wake up to that story. We all have a chance to rewrite that story for our whole life. We all have these things that we're overcoming. We all go through this hero's journey, and it won't look like anybody else's. And I think that's where we get stuck. Is I feel like most of my suffering is my own judgment about where I'm not based on where I think I should be. And I'm not the only one that does that. And that's where I strive daily to overcome that. And I love just consuming information like this, just because I am constantly on that journey. And then I get to turn around and teach others how to do that for themselves. And why do I get to teach it? Because I'm doing that right here. Right. So I'm so grateful for people like you, for you. Let me just say it directly. I'm grateful for you coming in and teaching me today something I needed to learn deeply today. And so I appreciate that. We always say, we use the symbol of the X. It's based on this stone my brother gave me. He said, here's a stone. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. You're right on time. You're doing what you need to be doing. And that stuck with me. And so, the symbolism of the X is that, the humanist, I like that, Hugh. The X is in mathematics is really the ultimate variable, because it's the unknown in the equation. It can represent anything in the equation. It's the start point. It's the end point. It's a representation. It was the symbolism of chi in Christianity, right?
Right.
It's this thing that is so symbolic, and what we do, it's in our logo. The X is in the tree, and it's symbolic of every one of us is that we are the start point. We are the destination.
Right.
And so thank you for being a part of this journey and this exploration here.
Nicholas, can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Here's a kicker.
Yeah.
We're all on this hero's journey. And do you know what that means? That means we're all heroes.
I like that. I like that. Let's have that be the wrap up. Giants, go be the hero. Thank you for being a giant. We love you. We will see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Love you too.
Love you guys.